Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Morning this morning. I am Henry Igwebike and love us to start the day with our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us, reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Very so honored to have joining me via Zoom is Emeka Madonago, journalist, public affairs analyst, to see through what we have from our newspapers and possibly our main conversation for today. Good morning, Emeka, and welcome to Enterprise Morning today.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you so very much for your
Good
time.
morning. Thank you for having me here. Thank
All
you.
right. Yes, beautiful. So let's kickstart today with the first daily on our desk coming from the Vanguard newspaper. We have the big story. No more negotiation. Ransom payment to terrorists. Defense Minister General Musa says. We have on the top strip, U.S. issues visa ban on Nigerians involved in anti-Christian violence. Emeka, let's start with no more negotiation, ransom payments to terrorists. Defense Minister General Musa, former CDS, now Defense Minister officially. Do you think we should expect anything different from the man who told us that the only solution to terrorism, insurgency in Nigeria is to fence the country? And secondly, that Nigerians should go and learn karate and judo to take care of themselves. So do we expect anything different having him now as the Defense Minister?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I think, excuse me, the new the minister designate, shouldn't have said that. You see, in any security matters, you don't let exuberance, because that was the screening. That was the Senate screening, and you see the politicians who, the politician, yes, Minister of State for Defense, Minister of State, Minister of Defense, Minister of State for Defense, they are politicians. And but Musa is a retired general, and so there may have been certain things that informed the payment of ransoms, negotiations and things like that. Which the National Security Advisor, who is a retired senior police officer, retired AIG, also called a non-kinetic approach. So they may have had their reasons for that. So General Musa to have come to say no more negotiation, he's already showing a lack of understanding of the dynamics, of this problem we are having in the country. That was a big group, and I hope his media aid will help him to correct it as quickly as possible. Because, you see, every country in the world tells you they will not negotiate with terrorists, will not negotiate with, but they indulge in backdoor negotiations, And so, depending on the circumstances, there may be a need for negotiation, but maybe through third parties. But what I'm saying is that, yes, on the flip side, yes, it is good to say, because every country says so, that there will be no negotiation. But in reality, sometimes there may be need for negotiation. I think what needs to be done is to, as much as possible, deal with the problem. Deal with the problem by all means, kinetic and non-kinetic. Make kidnapping a thing of the past. Then we will know we're in business. But to just make a sweeping statement, it will not, it's just a bravado. Whereas, that there are issues on ground. The morale of your troops is low. Are they being well remunerated? Are they being well paid? Yesterday, the senators talked about placing the military on first line charge. So when the military is not on first line charge, how do you confidently say such a thing? But if the military is on first line charge, it means that once allocations are being made, the military gets its allocations directly. And so there is no need for, any long term, there won't be any obstacles in the way. But again, we have to also look at, in fairness to the general, look at corruption, ensuring that there's no corruption in anything that is being done, whether in negotiation or not. Because it looks like this thing has presented because some people are making money from the whole thing. I don't have proof to that, but well, the general may need to investigate, how transparent the negotiations and all of those things have been. Thank you.
Very well said, Emeka. And the truth remains that General Musa Christopher has more than enough opportunity to deal with this problem. Remember, he just was stepped down from the CDS, which means the current CDS technically remains a junior to him, and the whole file, rank and file of the military still owe him so much respect. So if he doesn't work with his men to ensure that this is curbed, then it means that this problem might remain with us for a very long time to come. But let's take a look at the Punch newspaper for today. Abduction crisis. National Assembly asks the federal government to name terrorism financiers. Emeka, Nigerians are getting tired of these terrorism financiers that we don't know who they are. From Muhammad Buhari late, when the UAE released the names of the financiers, up until today, Nigerians are yet to know who these financiers are. I just believe that by the time they finally name the financiers, we might not have forgotten even what the problem was in the first place. Speak to me, please.
No, there was a list released some days ago now, which was released in 2021.
So
but the Buhari administration kept it, kept it in the draft.
But we didn't know who the persons are. That's the issue.
Yeah. No, we don't know who is on trial now. Tukomamo is on trial. Yes, he's on trial. He was said to have, he was accused of receiving 50 million from the ransom paid by the Kaduna train victims. He's on trial for that. There's some other companies, mainly Bureau de Change Operators, name. But of course, I know that the current Tinubu administration actually barred some Bureau de Change Operators from the system. Well, I don't know whether some of those indicted ones, were among those thrown out of the foreign exchange system by the Tinubu administration. But the issue is that there are calls that there should be a holistic list. There should be a holistic list. It's not just those few people. There was a long list that was given to former Attorney General Abubakar Malami, SAN, by the United Arab Emirates. Where are the people on the list? That's the question. Because when you look at the scale and the rapidity of these terrorist operations, it looks choreographed, as if some people are actually somewhere, giving these guys, a heads up, and I don't think these guys, those terrorists are actually so intellectually endowed that, they can respond in certain ways they have. Just as if maybe there are people who are sitting, in some locations, plotting the next move. And that's why, for instance, United States President Donald Trump is saying that the Tinubu administration is not doing enough. Excuse me, he's not doing enough to deal with terrorism. Because if you look at this, the reliable sophistication with which they move. Nigerian government came out attacking Trump. No. How come? Before Trump, there was the Chibok abduction. There was the Dapchi abduction of school children. There was the Kankara boys. There was the FGC Yauri, abduction of school boys in FGC Yauri. There were other abductions here and there. There was a killing at St. Francis Catholic Church in Norway. There have been killings here and there. So, why would you now say Trump? So what about, was Trump in power when those other wars took place? The point is that it appears that some people within the Tinubu administration and around it actually benefiting from this thing. Yes, because the explanations given by some of them I mean, makes you want to wonder if they came short of openly supporting the terrorists. I mean, look at the way they twisted the story that Trump wanted to invade and attack Nigeria, and that was not what Trump said. He said he was going to attack the terrorists, and then the next thing they turned it to, and then some of them, okay, the media too, I mean, also came out to make it look as if it's a Christian versus Muslim issue. So you'll find out that when you have criminality sustained this way, there are people who may be benefiting somehow or the other. So all of these things need to be exposed. General Musa should expose all of these things. I speak now. Thank you.
All right, Emeka, let's get to an issue that I would love you to really, brainstorm on, and that is happening in Ogun State. Dapo Abiodun presents 1.67 trillion naira 2026 appropriation bill to Ogun Assembly. Emeka, you're closest to Ogun State right now, and love you to speak to us on do you think this 1.67 trillion is worthy enough to be presented, knowing that Ogun State that should have a spillover growth and development from Lagos is not having any of that? Network roads in Ogun are all very dilapidated to an extent. Rather than get all of those fixed or connect Ogun State to the red and the blue line that started in Lagos, rather what we see is construction of a cargo airline that can only be used by people like Dapo Abiodun, his cronies and friends, and not the poor man in Ijebode. Speak to me on what you think is happening there.
Yeah, I had a look at the budget early this morning, and then, I think I had some disappointment, with the issue, with the way the expected, profit of funding the budget. I mean, 1/3 will come from internally generated revenue, about 500 billion. Then another 1/3 will come from receipts from the federation account. Then the other 1/3 will come from loans. I was taken aback because as a businessman and somebody who is well acquainted with Ogun State, I believe that if Ogun had an ambitious target, to raise up to 1 trillion naira in terms of internally generated revenue, I can do so. I believe so because I've traveled far and wide within Ogun State, and I know the potential of the state. That Ogun State, look at in Anambra State. I mean, without being accused, of any comparison, but when Professor Chukwuma Soludo came on board, he said he would fund the operations of government, from internally generated revenue. And then look at the report by budget, the budget transparency tracker. It has named the Anambra State as #1 state in terms of fiscal governance. I mean, and he asked other states to emulate Governor Chukwuma Soludo, because in terms of, internally generated revenue, Soludo has done so much. Yeah, he has not borrowed. There were loans that other governors from other states, there was a particular loan that governors from other states took, but he rejected it. And so far, so good. He has built a new government house. He has built some other things. He has been doing roads. And he says that those things are basically from internally generated revenue. Then if you look at in terms of VAT receipts, in terms of some other areas, I think Governor Dapo Abiodun, with due respect to him, should look more closely at the revenue profile of the state. Because again, there is this talk that a number of people live in Ogun State and work in Lagos State actually pay their taxes to Lagos State, their personal income taxes to Lagos State. It shouldn't be like that. You pay your personal income tax, you pay as you earn. You are supposed to remit it to where you live. And we know that there are thousands of residents of Ogun State, who work in Lagos. So I think that's an issue that Governor Dapo Abiodun can resolve. In a dialogue with the president, President Bola Tinubu and tax authorities, and his counterpart in Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. So I thought maybe he would have placed, an IGR target of like 1 or 1.2 or 1.3 trillion, and then move to do it because he can make it. Ogun State has a lot of markets. Ogun State has a lot of industries. I think maybe Ogun has the highest number of industries in Nigeria, possibly even higher than Lagos State. Ogun has a lot of solid industries, factories here and there.
But don't you think, Emeka? I'm sorry to interject, Emeka. Yeah, sorry to interject. Don't you think the reason why we have so many industries in Ogun State is because of the minimal tax that those companies pay, which makes them easier to operate in Ogun State than in Lagos? So asking that Ogun State should borrow some leave from Lagos on taxation, don't you think that would further drive away the many industries that we are talking about? So how do we balance it?
Not from Lagos, from Anambra. What I'm saying is this: what state governments are statutorily empowered to, the major taxes pay as you earn is paying. If we can resolve that issue of people working in Lagos and living in Ogun State paying taxes to Lagos, that is one area he needs to fight and find a way to resolve. Secondly, in terms of tax, he may need to get people who can actually help him to look more closely at the tax profile of the state, at areas where the state can actually make some money. Ogun has a lot of ongoing a lot of potential which can actually be turned into taxation. Of course, you have some other areas like sales tax. Yes, there's VAT, which is charged by the federal government, but there's sales tax as well. For instance, this ride-hailing platforms, there is a tax that you pay. They call it road tax. I've seen it charged in Lagos. I've seen it charged in the FCT Abuja. So I don't know if it is charged in Ogun State. But Ogun needs to punch above his weight, because in terms of population, it has a very large population. And the population is growing. So I think the governor needs to, look more closely at, yes, the airport. Yes, you might say that the airport can only afford access to the elite. But don't forget too that if certain other activities, certain other facilities are tied to the airport, that there's a lot that can be that can be gained. For instance, one suggestion I'd like to make to them is to upgrade the Ijebu-Ode Township Stadium. So if they can upgrade it, or upgrade the one in the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abeokuta. If they can upgrade it, then what it means is that, if, for instance, the Remo Stars, I think their home base is, if their home base is Ijebu-Ode, Remo Star, which has been doing well domestically, if their home base is in Ijebu-Ode or Abeokuta, their proprietor, he owns an airline, Value Jet. So I think the governor can work out an intermodal system whereby, Remo Stars plays their matches, so their matches in Ijebu-Ode. So if you upgrade Ijebu-Ode Stadium, that will mean that a lot of people, that Chela Pabio did it as governor of Akwa Ibom State. So Governor Dakwabia is a governor just like that. So he can actually, look at the international stadium in Akwa Ibom. That's the best stadium in Nigeria, internationally approved, TAP approved, FIFA graded. So if we can have another one in Ogun State, either in Ijebu-Ode or Abeokuta, the governor can actually upgrade the stadiums. That would be a win-win for him, because what it means is that even certain matches, the Super Eagles can play certain matches in Abeokuta or in Ijebu-Ode. And you can imagine the crowd. The benefits, sports, tourism, and all of that. So that's one thing I think I can suggest. You know, I mean, he said he has done more roads than previous administrations. You know, yes, I think he should continue. He should expand it. He should look at some other areas like Mowe, Ibafo, you know, and the rest of them, you know, on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway axis, you know, upgrade them so that you can, you know, you can get in and, for instance, be collecting land use charge. You know, you can collect land use charge, tenement rate. If you just, you know, provide things like maybe roads, some, you know, infrastructural facilities here and there. Of course, the people will be obligated to reciprocate by, you know, I mean, paying land use charge. And then the local governments will also collect tenement rate. That way, you know, it will be a win-win situation for the state. Thank you.
Very well said, Mecca. Those are low-hanging fruits that I think the government should take care of. New Jersey takes advantage of the spillover from New York to better itself, and one would wonder how and when would Ogun State equally take advantage of that opportunity, like the stadium you did mention. These are areas and measures and avenues that you can bring in so much money to the state intentionally. Godswill Akpabio did it in Akwa Ibom State, and as at the time he was building that stadium, lots of people thought it was a white elephant project, but today it is the haven of sporting activities in Nigeria. And who says that any other governor like Dapo Abiodun cannot replicate such in his state? But of course, it boils down to intentionality, and when our leaders and our politicians will stop playing politics and start playing governance. Emeka will be here to take us on our main conversation when we return. Inside Nigeria's new anti-kidnapping laws, what you should know. That in a bit. Enterprise Morning it is. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so very much for staying tuned. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our conversation for today. Minister of Defense General Christopher Musa has insisted that Nigeria must put a complete end to the negotiation with terrorists or paying ransom to kidnappers, warning that such practices only strengthen criminal groups. Speaking during his ministerial screening at the Senate, and Musa stressed that ransom payment enable terrorists to regroup, acquire more weapons, and launch French attacks. He noted that Nigeria's banking system has the capacity to track suspicious financial transactions if fully integrated, and called for a unified national database that links security, identity, and banking system to improve crime fighting. Let's get talking. We still have Emeka Madunagu. Thank you so very much, Emeka, for staying tuned. Emeka, are you there?
Thank you. I'm here. Yeah, thank you.
All right, beautiful. So, Emeka, I know we had started the talk, you know, on the no paying of ransom as made possible or had been submitted by Christopher Musa. But let's get into other matters that's linked to it. He said that that Nigeria lacks a database, a common database. He said, according to him, that the Nigerian police have their own database, the army have their own database, lots of banking have their own database, lots of databases all over the place. There's no unified database that would ensure that a criminal who commits a crime in Sokoto will not end up in Abuja thinking he is not guilty or he's free. Speak to us on why you think that is absent, knowing that Isa Pantami, the former Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, had made it possible for us to have it done. What's your take?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, the issue of the database, I mean, is trying to trivialize the issue. We have cross-border. While we have a database, you know, national identity number, which which we are told was compromised recently, the database. But that is one side of the story. The other side of the story is that, Nigeria is actually experiencing infiltration from the Sahel, and then some of these criminals are actually people who come from different countries. Some of them have been displaced in some places, displaced from Iraq, displaced from some other theaters, Somalia, Central African Republic. So, of course, some of them are actually bounty hunters, freelance fighters, who go here and there looking for theaters of war, looking for theaters of war. So, and if you recall, many years ago, Osama bin Laden, who was the founder of Al-Qaeda terrorist group, actually said that Nigeria was ripe for a jihad. So the authorities at that time should have taken very good note of that comment and moved to beef up, to beef up their efforts. So talking just about the database is like making the issue a one-sided thing. It's much more than that. I mean, it's just to secure your borders. Just apart from securing your database. I mean, the database was breached recently. So apart from securing your internal database, it's also to ensure that you have a record of everyone entering or leaving Nigeria. You have a lot of porous areas. We have porous borders. But people come and go. But it's not entirely difficult to monitor the movement of people in and out of the country. So what we need is also to remove corruption from the system, because the idea that people can just pay a bribe and cross the borders, should be eliminated. It affects all of us, because when you collect a bribe to allow illegal aliens to cross the border, what you end up doing is that you're also putting yourself in the line of danger. That's one. There's also the ECOWAS protocol on free movement of persons. Yes, so there ought to be free movement of persons. Sadly, in Africa, it is not so. There are still hindrances to free movement. So African states should look at the protocols of the African Union and ECOWAS and try to work within those protocols to ensure, that terrorists do not take advantage of this free movement. There should be greater collaboration. For instance, Ghana and Burkina Faso have just signed an agreement, on a free roaming. So what it means is that any citizen, anybody from Ghana going to Burkina Faso or vice versa, roaming their phones, can actually do that for free. You don't have that, across Africa. And that is bad. That's why it's easier, it's cheaper to make a call from any African country, outside Africa, a destination outside Africa, than it is to a destination within Africa. That's why it's cheaper, to fly from any part of Africa to outside Africa than it is from one point in Africa to another point within the continent.
Are you still there, Emeka?
So what does it say? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
So what it means is that African nations need to up their game so that terrorists don't mess up this beautiful continent. Thank you.
Yes, Emeka, all of this I truly do understand with you and appreciate your submission. But why is it that we keep hiding behind our fingers, reacting and behaving like ostriches to some extent, when we glaringly know what the problem is? These bandits these days do not hide their faces. Before now, they used to cover up their faces and wear dark shades. But now they've gone above that. They glaringly show who they are. They tell you some of the times where they are even communicating with or from, and their NIN should be there in our databases for us to find out. So why are we running in circles, behaving like we don't know the right things to do, when what we should do is right there before us?
Let me tell you. these things are very simple. One, the AU has a protocol that, if somebody is wanted in Nigeria and maybe flees to another African country, that person can be apprehended in that country and put on trial right there, right in that country. That was used in the case of Henry Oka. When one of the previous administrations, activated the AU protocol, he was arrested in Angola, where he went to negotiate the purchase of 2 maritime vessels. He was arrested there and put on trial there and jailed. So if we activate that, what it means is this: it will be easier to, for instance, say, okay, these terrorists, if they are terrorists that escaped from Nigeria, for instance, if we can activate the AU protocol and say, okay, Niger Republic or any other country, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, whatever, please help us apprehend this person. Instead of wasting time on trying to repatriate the person, because that's the mistake we keep making. We try to make that mistake under concerning Simon Ekpa. The separatist agitator, in Finland. But eventually, I think common sense prevailed that no, since Finland has already activated his trial, let Finland go ahead. Because the process of repatriation is difficult. It's not a straightforward thing. Don't forget that in Finland, some of the things for which Simon Ekpa was being accused of are not offenses in Finland. If you look at the history of Finland, you'll see some of the things Simon Ekpa was doing, as part of the history of Finland. So, it's not like money laundering or financial crimes that once you're able to just satisfy the burden of proof, discharge the burden of proof, then you can easily activate a repatriation. So, if we can do that, if African nations can rise up, so instead of Nigeria, wasting money on repatriation, just like the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, instead of moving, instead of abducting him in Kenya and bringing him to Nigeria, the Nigerian government should simply have activated the AU protocol and ask Kenya to put him on trial, try him and jail him there. Would have been spared a lot of the problems that followed his trial in Nigeria, the sit at home and all of that, all of those displacements. So what I'm saying is that we need to look within and without. There are existing protocols on prosecution, international treaties that we've signed. We have the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. How far have we gone? The other day, the Attorney General Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, was addressing the ICC, and was asking foreign nations to respect Nigeria's sovereignty. I was disappointed. Are we talking about sovereignty? Your sovereignty is being breached. It's being breached, day and night. And you're talking, what we should be talking about is African brotherhood, promoting African brotherhood, such that a criminal in Nigeria is a criminal anywhere on the continent. So that way, we can work together and deal with criminality in any part of the part of the continent. So that way, Nigeria can, for instance, assist Niger Republic, those poor African nations that are neighbors, Chad, Cameroon, Benin, and those other African nations that are neighbors that are, poorer than Nigeria. Say, okay, we'll assist you beyond just the multinational joint task force. We'll assist you, in ensuring that, in beefing up your military and ensuring that you can help us to deal with cross-border crime, so that anybody, any criminal who comes to Nigeria to commit a crime and escapes your country is arrested and put on trial. So we don't waste time talking of extradition. No, quickly put on trial and dealt with. So if African nations can come together and say, okay, let's set up terrorism courts, anti-terrorism courts. That will make it faster. The number of terrorists that will be jailed, to be so fast. Then you can now say, okay, that when conviction is secured, then you cannot talk of extradition. So at that point, you have more, you have a stronger case to extradite, as speedily as possible. So let us put on our thinking cap to deal with terrorism. It's not a single, one nation affair. No, it's not an affair of one nation. Under Obasanjo, America asked us to join the U.S.-Africa Command initiatives, their training initiatives and all of that. But the then Chief of Army Staff, General Victor Malu, was grandstanding, that Nigeria doesn't need any assistance from the U.S., that in fact it's Nigeria that should be training the U.S. What nonsense. I mean, the Nigerian Army was founded in 1960. Do you know how long the U.S. Army had been existing before that time? How many theaters of war that the U.S. Army has visited around the world? And it has seen real battle. The U.S. Army has seen battle in different theaters. How many theaters of war has the Nigerian Army witnessed? So what's the point in grandstanding? Every cooperation is necessary and is important and is helpful, so long as it advances the cause of ensuring safer borders. And that's why you look at the EU, the European Union. We can copy from the European Union to make sure that, we keep Africa safer. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Emeka. It's very important that we keep Africa, safe, and it is in our hands to make that work. One would wonder why we don't have all of these issues in other continents except Africa, particularly in West Africa and Nigeria, most importantly, a country of over 200 million people, that we would have used the population to our advantage economically and growing in leaps and bounds. But of course, what we have is a Nigeria where we are eating ourselves rather than making good ourselves. That's the time we have for today. Thank you so very much, Emeka, for being here. I truly do appreciate your time. All right, that's the time we have. Please do well to follow us. You can find us at Enterprise TV 7, and also you can read up on everything we've talked about when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. I am Henrik Webike. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.